So this Nitro.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to open up with a spoiler, everybody. Next week on the show, Vince Russo becomes the WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Brian.
Now, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. Mm-hmm. Because if you have been watching this show, which we have, there is one long-term storyline that they have logically stuck with. And it's the build to Vince Russo becoming the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Can you imagine? I watched this show. Nothing makes sense. They've been building this up forever with Goldberg and Russo and the first Triple Cage match and this show. And then if you remember the finish, Goldberg kills Vince Russo by spearing him through the side of the cage. Yep. So Goldberg finally, after all of these weeks, gets his hands on the guy, but it leads to Russo getting the belt. The one storyline that he writes that goes weeks and like everything ties together is all about getting himself over.
Are you telling me Vince Russo can actually write when he wants to?
Barely. But like the one thing, it's all about himself. It's infuriating.
Well, I see your point, and it very much is, but I would counter by saying we have watched this show. And Vince Russo's been on this show for coming up on a year now, most of it. He's on TV, despite his claim he didn't want to be on TV. He's on TV all the goddamn time.
Well, yeah.
And he's helped his friends win the title. He's helped Nash win the title. He's tried to get the title off Booker. He did all of the Brett and Jarrett and Christ knows what else. At no point prior to this episode we're about to review, at no point did Vince Russo drop the slightest hint that he ever wanted to be world champion.
Well, it's a private matter, Vinny.
He never, handed the belt to anyone and, held on a little bit more. Never cut a promo just staring at the belt. No. Never. So it came on. I realize you're right, Brian. There is a long-term storyline in place here. But it feels like something they made up tonight and paid off with next week.
Well, it's because he sucks at his job.
He sucks so hard at his job.
Yes. Now, it is... Here's my booking of Vince Russo's booking. You ready for this? Vince Russo always wanted to be the world champion, but he never thought he had a chance. Until September of 2000, when the title had changed hands. You ready for this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20 times that year.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not talking in a year. I'm talking from January to September.
8.5 months.
There were 20 world title changes. And surely Vince Russo looked at this and thought, I could get this belt.
Now, I don't know if you have it in front of you, if you can quickly count. On top of that, how many times was the title vacant? It's 3 or 4.
Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times. And it's about to be vacated again.
In 8.5 months.
And
did you know this company went out of business?
I hate to say this, okay? But it's just a factual statement. And we are jumping ahead a week again. You do realize that if you watch this show, Vince Russo is a better and more credible champion than David Arquette.
I guess.
These are sad facts.
There's more heat on him.
Yes.
I look back, I was thinking about this on the drive over, what a horrible year this has been.
Oh, it's been hideous.
When people talk about the David Arquette title reign as a black mark in the history of WCW, dude, not even close to rock bottom. There's so much they did worse than David Arquette as champion.
Oh, yes, much worse.
So this here episode of WCW Monday Nitro, September 18th of the year 2000, if I have not said that, we have clips from Fall Brawl, a notorious match. So the Natural Born Thrillers teamed with their trainer from the power plant, Paul Orndorff, against the Filthy Animals in an elimination tag match.
Yeah.
And
it's classic.
In the middle of this elimination tag match, Paul Orndorff, who had been retired in the first place due to a history of bad neck issues, an atrophied arm due to nerve damage, he gets a stinger, which I never had, but I've talked to a lot of guys who had one. They're not very damaging, but they're very, very painful. And so this guy...
Well, they're painful, and he lost feeling in his arms.
Lost feeling in his arm. And he came into the match with a history of neck problems. I'm sure he was terrified. So he gets the stinger and he goes down and he doesn't move. The other 9, 10, 12 wrestlers, whatever it is, they just keep doing a match around his limp body. It was shocking then. It would be shocking now. It's amazing. Now, the point of all this is, eventually, this elimination match was just thrown out.
Yeah.
And so they're going to pick up where it left off for Nitro.
They're not starting the match over the next night.
No.
If you were eliminated last night, you're still eliminated.
The match was not canceled. It was suspended.
I was dying.
Somebody took a timeout.
Yeah. There was a rain out, and it finished the next night. So here is the match we got to open Nitro. I swear to God. In an elimination tag match, Rey Mysterio Jr. and his partner, Tigress, versus Mark Jindrak and Chuck Palumbo and Mike Sanders and Sean O'Hare and apparently also Sean Stasiak, who started the match on commentary and then at one point just started wrestling. So here's the thing about this. I decided almost instantly that it's just Nitro. It's just this stupid ass elimination tag match. I'm not going to watch this as a wrestling match. I'm going to watch this as gymnastics and acrobatics and whatever power moves, just an athletic display.
Don't even tell me you were able to.
Rey Mysterio and the Thrillers did some cool stuff. There were cool moves in this match. It went 4 minutes. There was, 19 pins.
Let me go through them.
All right.
It is Rey and Tigress against 5 enormous men.
Yeah.
O'Hare powerbombs Rey. Think about this. He powerbombed Rey and he went for the senton, but he accidentally hit Jindrak.
Right.
Yeah. Jindrak was holding Rey's feet, but Rey did a crunch, a reverse crunch, and yanked the 6'9", 260-pound Jindrak forward into the way of the senton.
Yes.
This defies laws of physics.
It does.
So
that's why I didn't pay attention to those.
Rey and Tigress then pinned O'Hare and Jindrak. And to their credit, the place went crazy. Tigress. Rey and Tigress pinned Jindrak and O'Hare. So then Rey goes up top. Stasiak, who's doing commentary, crotches him right in front of the referee, which is not a DQ. Kiwi hits Stasiak with a chair. Tigress pins Stasiak. And Palumbo pinned Rey. So basically, Tigress is the last one left. She rolls up Palumbo for the pin.
That happened.
There's no interference.
No.
Nobody was hit by a weapon. She rolled up Palumbo and pinned him.
She out-wrestled him.
It is now Tigress versus Sanders. Rey, who was eliminated, drop kicks Sanders. She gives him the X Factor and sits on his face for the pin.
Fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are all facts.
Yes.
Listen to me. This has very little to do with the fact that Tigress is a woman. But she's 90 pounds and she's untrained.
Yeah. Yes.
Forget that she's a woman. She's a 90-pound untrained person who just ran roughshod through all of these thrillers.
Fact.
I could not believe my eyes. They buried. And then, I'm not the biggest fan of Kevin Nash.
What?
But he was amazing on this show. Kevin Nash is watching backstage, and he's sitting on this box. The bell rings, and he is disgusted. And he turns to whoever it was, and he says, "Do these thrillers need a coach or what? Brutal. Brutal." And he walks off. I'm like, he is not wrong.
No.
And it only got better. Nash meets with the thrillers afterwards. And first off, Jindrak says something, we don't even hear what he says. We never found out. But Nash says, if you say that again, you'll be SOL. And we all know what that means. So then he's got a chalkboard. And he starts giving them coaching tips. He starts drawing this diagram. Show them what you're made of is his plan. And he says, you're going to be here, Jindrak, and you're going to go here, O'Hare, and you're going to go this way, Palumbo. And essentially he connects all the dots and it says, you suck. And then he walks off. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you do suck. He's right. You guys suck. Kevin Nash is correct.
He walks off, and it says, you suck in giant letters on the board.
Yes.
And it cuts to the Thrillers, and they're staring at it.
Yeah.
And like,
It takes
there's a pregnant pause. There's like 4 seconds. One of them says, you suck.
Wait a minute.
Like, it took them that long to read.
Yeah.
Because they suck.
So at Fall Brawl, first Booker T beats Kevin Nash in a cage match to regain the title. And then the real main event of the show is Goldberg versus Steiner, which apparently is an amazing fight, I've been told. And then we are told they don't say who won. They simply say Steiner got his hand raised. All right. So it appears we're getting a Goldberg promo, but no, it's Vince Russo doing Goldberg's entrance. And they try to get you to buy the Fall Brawl replay by saying Goldberg has never lost this decisively before. Yes, buy the pay-per-view to see Goldberg lose. So Russo shows himself with a foot on Goldberg's chest. Claims to have a registered letter from Goldberg.
Okay, I want to apologize to everybody in advance, but I wrote the entire letter word for word.
What?
And there is a
The floor is
reason.
yours.
There is a reason that I'm going to read this, okay? Because we're live on national television, and we got 2 hours. And all he needs to do is read a short registered letter from Goldberg. So he starts reading. Dear Mr. Russo, Your Honor, Sir. After getting my ass handed to me last night at Fall Brawl by Scott Steiner, I came to the conclusion that I am no longer worthy of working for WCW, or more specifically, working for an icon like you, Vince Russo. The truth is, time and time again, you have given me a chance to make a name for myself, and time again, I have failed, not only you, but also the fans. I, Bill Goldberg, am a total disgrace. I am not worthy. I am a loser. Therefore, at this point, I find no other choice than to formally resign from WCW. As far as the kids go, I am no hero. Never was, never will be. If those kids truly want someone to look up to for guidance, for leadership, for love, then they should be looking up to you, Vince Russo. Because the fact is, I will never, and I do mean never, be half the man you are. P.S. Mr. Russo, you are my God. Respectfully yours. I was like, dude, I got it.
Okay.
How the fuck long are you going to read this goddamn letter? I have been trying so hard not to swear on this show, but I've given up now. This fucking letter just went on and on and on and on and on and on. It was like the Firefly fucking on Funhouse video at the end of Raw where they played it, and hey, it's upside down. It's backwards. It's a funny color. I got it. Oh, it's upside down. It's backwards. It's a funny color. Hey, I got it. Oh, it's still going for 2 fucking minutes. Dude, I got it.
Well,
Jesus. I've read fucking Bible chapters that were shorter than that.
I don't think you have.
Positive.
read them again. Closer this time. Well, Brian, we can add poor delivery to reasons to hate Vince Russo, because I watched him deliver this exact same promo, and I didn't even care.
God.
It just rolled off me.
Damn.
I just did something else while he was talking. So when he's done reading his long registered letter,
An hour later,
he brings out Scott Steiner. Steiner brags about beating Goldberg, but then apologizes for making him resign. He never meant to do that. But then a funny thing happens.
what a nice guy.
Now, I'm guessing it's because they were in Canada, and Canadians love Bret Hart. And I think by now the word was out that Bret was retired after Goldberg kicked him in the head. There is a very, very loud Goldberg sucks chant.
Yep.
It's not a vocal minority. It's the vast majority of these fans.
No, and they're cheering for Steiner when he says he's going to win the title.
Yes. So Steiner begins to talk about a title shot. Then he calls out Sting. Russo says, "What are you talking about?" Jarrett comes out. Okay, serious question. In storyline, why do Russo and his gang hang out together? All they ever do is fight with each other.
Because they're just all bad guys.
And it's always the same fight. It's who's in charge or who's going to benefit this week. It's the same damn show. So...
Is Jeff the worst chosen one in history?
Yes.
He's getting no chances.
they choose him. He's a preliminary chosen one.
He has to come out and point out every week that he is the chosen one because everybody's forgotten.
He's the chosen low man on the totem pole.
Yes.
So eventually Nash comes out. Everyone says they want a title shot. And here is the point where Russo says, I'm going to make... Now, I didn't find out what he actually booked here until like halfway through the show. So I'll tell you what he booked here, but understand, at the time he said it, I was completely baffled and bewildered. He books Jarrett and Steiner as a team in a tag team match against himself and Kevin Nash.
Yes.
All their friends are going to have a fight. And whoever wins the fall gets a title shot against Booker T next week in Vince Russo's hometown of Long Island. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what he eventually booked. When this segment was done, I thought he had booked 2 separate matches with Jarrett and Steiner as one team and him and Nash as the other, fighting other people.
Gotcha.
I had no idea what he was talking about with the title at the stake. I had zero concept.
I hate to defend Vince Russo, but I've got my notes right here, and I figured out what he was talking about.
Okay. Maybe it's me.
I think it was you.
It may have been me. So here was the point where Russo says it's been his dream since he was a little boy to be WCW World Champion.
Very skeptical of that, by the way.
Is he 18 years old? So he declares all this is over. He's going to team with Nash. He's going to be world champion. The other guys are all outraged. As Russo's leaving, Steiner grabs a mic and starts screaming, "My Johnson's bigger than your arms."
That's Scott Steiner.
So if I had watched this segment on Nitro and reviewed it here in this retro show like 2 months ago, I would have absolutely lost my mind. But now it's fall. I've been watching this all summer. Who cares? It's just another bullshit, illogical, nonsensical Nitro promo. Even Trainwreck TV gets old. That's my point.
And not that it matters or anything, but Medeja is back with Steiner.
She is, and it's funny you bring that up because they go to break, and when they come back, we're back in the locker room. Now, Kevin Nash lost his title the night before, and now has been told he'll have to fight all his friends to get a title shot back. Mm-hmm. We're in the dressing room, and Nash is just sitting down, holding Medeja's hand, and staring at her chest.
Well,
just he's moved on. So Steiner and Jarrett say, "We have a match. You have to go talk to Russo." And Nash says, "I got tonight off." And Jarrett stops. Like every week, Nash has to say something weird, and Jarrett has to stop and turn and react. Jarrett says, "You got Mondays off? Since when?" "Since tonight." Anyway.
Some would argue that he's had Mondays off for a long time.
We have a Shane Douglas promo.
So apparently the pay-per-view, Franchise and Tori were not thrown off the scaffold. Kidman was thrown off through the stage, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened to Medusa.
I said she fell off the scaffold somehow.
Okay, so anyway.
I'll take their word for it.
They challenged any team.
No, they challenged any couple in the back. So out come Kwee-Wee and Paisley. The match begins. Shane's in the ring. Tori's on the floor. Kwee-Wee is in the ring. Paisley's in the apron. The announcers are baffled. Is this a tag match?
I think everybody was
Is this
baffled.
a singles match? Is this a handicap match? No one ever knows what's going on this show. So Kwee-Wee forcibly kisses Tori against her will. This, of course, makes Paisley mad at Tori. Mm-hmm. Shane hits the franchiser on Kwee-Wee, but then Paisley wants to fight Tori. So Shane throws Kwee-Wee's corpse into the corner. Paisley tags in. Shane teases tagging in Tori, but as he swerve, he grabs Paisley, hits a franchiser on her, pins her in a very sexual manner. All of this in perhaps 2 minutes.
Well, I mean, to be fair, in the first match on the show, Tigress pinned Sanders with a very sexual pin.
That is true. There's a lot of...
So, this was 50-50. Is that the term?
I believe it.
Sure.
I don't know if that's the term.
In this conversation, 69 may be more appropriate.
Okay.
Right.
Anyway, this was totally fine heel stuff. He was just a jerk.
Is franchise's new move the worst finisher you've ever seen?
No, it's not very good.
It's really bad.
I
I can't tell who's getting hurt.
Well,
Me watching it, I guess.
it's not very good. Nash goes to meet with Russo, who's very excited and says he has a plan. So we go to break and we come back, and it's the fucking chalkboard gag again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just do the exact same joke.
Well, it worked the
Yes.
first time.
It's solid material. This is good shit. So Nash writes, "Bite me" on the board, and he walks out, and Russo stares at it, and there's a pregnant pause. He says, "Bite me? Nash, it's the same gag."
Yes.
Like an hour, not even an hour later. Brian, did you write down Pamela Polshock's question?
I just know that she randomly announced it was Sting versus Booker for the title, and they I don't even know what happened. They also just got mad at each other.
So it's Sting and Booker for the title tonight. Booker starts talking about how he respects Sting. Sting says something fiery. Booker sucker punches Sting. And then Sting beats Booker's ass. He's a worse champion than The Rock. Disco, who has a duck now.
Yeah.
Get it?
Disco Duck.
Yes. Now, they keep saying it's an inflatable duck. Do they know what inflatable means?
I don't think so.
It's a hard plastic duck. So he goes to meet with the cat. The cat challenges him to a match. I don't know why. But he says, if you beat me, Disco Inferno, you can be commissioner for a day. But you have to put something on the line too. And Disco says, that's fine. If you beat me, you can strip Rey Mysterio Jr. and Juventud Guerrera of the tag team titles. Because that's what this company needs, is more vacant titles.
You know what I love about this whole thing with the duck is
Do tell.
Disco has a duck,
Yes.
okay? Somebody thought it would be funny for there to be a disco duck. But every time that Shat talks about the duck, he
Yes.
calls it a goose.
Correct.
Because he thinks it's funnier to call a duck a goose
Yes.
than to say that there's a disco duck.
I don't know. I don't know.
Nothing. Everything sucks about this show.
Sting, also a hero, throws a tantrum in his locker room. And he's destroying stuff and tearing shelving down.
Why is he so mad? He beat up a Booker and he's getting a title match. Now he's mad?
I also like that he has his own dressing room, which has its own mood lighting. It's like
Cool.
all dark, and there's like one big red light in the corner.
Maybe he stole Vampiro's room after
He may
they
have,
feuded.
actually. Do they have a winner gets the lighting rig match? Booker also throws a tantrum. He's throwing furniture everywhere. But at least this makes sense, because Booker got his ass kicked.
Sure.
So he got embarrassed. The cat goes to wrestle Disco Inferno. Disco is backstage with the Filthy Animals, who of course are mad at him, and he says, it's okay, guys, just do a run-in. Cat can see this on the monitor. Cat says, if your friends come down here, I will suspend them for 3 months without pay. So Disco comes out alone. The match goes, I swear to God, 10 seconds, and the cat kicks him and pins him. And the animals...
Yeah, I'd totally forgotten, but in fact, they have been stripped of the titles. And spoiler here, the titles are in fact vacant. And so they do a battle royal next week to determine who the new champions are going to be.
Please tell me it's like one of those battle royals where the last two men, whoever they may be, are, and it's some random mismatch team.
No.
Yeah.
It's Jindrak and O'Hare.
No.
Which begs the question, why couldn't they beat the Filthy Animals to win the tag team titles and maybe get over?
Because that's their problem, Brian. They may have gotten over that way.
I realize that.
We're in a sabotage mission here. So the animals chase Disco Inferno through the crowd. Nash tells Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner that he's leaving the building. He's tired of this shit. He's walking away from his chance to fight his friends for a title shot. Disco Inferno also drives away.
Oh my God.
The announcer spends several minutes asking who Russo's partner will be now, and then...
So, this was clearly Russo.
You think?
Because it was just like the registered letter.
Oh,
I could
1,000 times worse.
wait for this to end. Mike Tenay goes to David Flair's house. And it's Mike Tenay, so it's like the acting is so preposterous.
Yep.
Like, David Flair is horrible,
Yes.
but he's like an Oscar contender compared to Mike Tenay. David wants to know what he wants. Lets him in.
But before he lets him in, he says, "Are you alone?" And Mike Tenay says yes. And David pokes his head out, and he looks to the left, he looks to the right, and says, "Okay, come in." So ignoring there's a cameraman right there.
We're supposed to forget about that.
So the cameraman and Mike Tenay go into the house.
So the house is a mess, and there's half-eaten pizza, and there's just a wretched couch.
Why all the candles?
David says,
Good morning.
I see.
"You want to sit down?" Mike Tenay says, "It's okay. I'll stand."
Sad lonely men light a lot of candles quick.
I'm like, dude, it's a 2-hour show. We're doing small talk about whether you want to sit down. David then goes, "You want something to eat?" Mike Tenay goes, "I've already eaten." I'm like, oh my God. I could already tell this is going to go an hour. Tenay then asks the following question to David Flair. On national television, by the way. What's it like having your life crumble right before your eyes and a national television audience? And what does that do to your mental stability?
What's it like to be left at the altar and find out your fiance is pregnant with someone else's baby? And then, yes, that is a quote. How does that affect your mental stability?
I'm guessing not good.
He says that I'm fucking nuts and plunged a large knife into Mike Tenay's chest.
This was so awful. David doesn't answer. Mike Tenay then wants to know, do you know who the father is?
I'm already bored.
David jumps up and he goes and looks out the window. He's all crazy. Tenay says, I confronted Stacy with the same question. I did not get an answer. Have you had a chance to talk to her since? David then begins to try to light a cigarette. But he can't figure out how to light it. This is very important to this segment here.
Sure.
Mike Tenay goes, David, you don't smoke, and I don't either. David goes, right. He puts it down and he mutters, they'll kill you anyway. I'm like, what am I watching? I got stuff to do today. Tenay says, do you know who it might be? David says, Reed.
I could go over every line.
Mike Tenay goes, Reed? Who's Reed? I'm like, listen, this is bullshit enough, but of all fucking people in this company, you know who fucking Reed is. David goes, my brother Reed. So Tenay, who didn't know who Reed was, now says Reed's 11. You didn't know who Reed was, but now you know how old he fucking is? He says he's probably not under suspicion. Well, he is under suspicion from David Flair. David then runs to the window again. Says the father is here. But then he just goes and sits back down. Tenay says, have you asked Rick if he's the father? Have you asked your dad? David mutters no. Tenay says, he didn't deny the fact that he was the father. David suddenly jumps up. He runs outside. There's a mailman. Mm-hmm. This could actually be something fun.
Sure.
Instead, he clotheslines the mailman. He puts him in the figure four. Mike Tenay pulls David off the mailman. David runs in. The mailman goes, I think he broke my leg. Then they end it. That's the segment.
Yeah.
It was so awful.
Yes, I had to go over every single question. I needed to tell you, the listener, what we watched. I refuse to watch that and not recap the whole thing. If you're suffering, too bad.
You could have just left it with...
No!
A mailman was beat up.
No!
Now, I will add, when the mailman arrived, they cut to him.
Yeah.
Which means there were two cameramen there David Flair couldn't see.
It's true.
And yes, the mailman said...
Well, maybe the mailman had his own cameraman.
I hadn't thought of that. I mean, you know what?
Maybe they were doing some sort of documentary.
Yeah, sure. in 2019, that wouldn't be weird at all. So maybe he's ahead of the curve.
True.
But yes, and then the mailman said, I think he broke my leg in a way to indicate there's 0% chance that man has a broken bone. Mm-hmm. This was so ungodly bad. We went so long, my computer just went into sleep mode. Okay, now...
So are the listeners.
Touche. We go back to the building. M.I. Smooth is in the ring. Ice Train, the limo driver.
Yes.
Here I wrote in all capital letters, what in the fuck is this show?
Well, apparently she was impregnated in M.I. Smooth's limo.
We've now learned, M.I. Smooth says, the father, the culprit, did the deed in the back of my limousine.
Excuse me, the culprit? I had never labeled myself as such when people ask me how I'm related to Paisley. I'm the culprit.
Someone here
Well,
actually
not
used
yet.
that term. I forget who it was. One of the announcers that used the word culprit.
So this means that not only was somebody having sex in a limo, M.I. Smooth was watching.
No.
Filming!
Billy Kidman. They said Billy Kidman was filming on his kid cam.
There was 4 people in the limo?
Well,
So why doesn't he go after
Smooth
Kidman
handed him the
then?
keys and left.
Okay.
So he said the cameras are rolling. Anyway, so yes, Billy Kidman is a voyeur. That is his gimmick.
Yeah, that's
He likes
true.
to film people while they make love in the back of limousines.
That's true. And in showers and everything.
That's true. He has done this before. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So,
got to be
huge,
part of it.
huge perv. So Smooth says, David Flair, I have a videotape here that shows Stacy Keibler being impregnated. Give me cash. I will give you the video, and then you will know who the father.
I mean,
is.
how do we know that was the incident?
That's true.
It may have happened. That's true.
We have no idea.
It's
This is the one time in her life that she was copulating.
She did wear white at the wedding. So, anyway, David buys the videotape from M.I. Smooth, and then he hits him with a crowbar, lays him out, and runs away.
He didn't even take his money back.
I didn't even notice.
Okay.
Vince Russo's in the back reading.
We don't know how
something.
much he gave him. He could have given him $2 because M.I. Smooth was counting it when he was hit from behind.
So Vince Russo's in the locker room reading something. I can't see what it is, but when the other guys show up, he hides it quickly and pulls out a muscle
Probably
magnet.
High Times. Since he came up with the idea for Chronic.
Jared accuses him of reading soft porn.
Soft.
That's what he called it. Not soft core, soft porn.
Okay.
So Jarrett and Steiner demand to know who Russo's partner is going to be. He suggests Chronic. They bury Chronic for a while. And then Russo wants to talk.
Steiner goes, they suck!
Well,
Russo wants to talk about Booker and Sting. And that's it. Booker goes for a walk. Sting goes for a walk. David demands the tech geek play this tape right now. And when the tech geek turns around to play the tape right now, David hits him with a crowbar and apparently murders him. The Red Rooster tells Mike Sanders that Vince Russo wants to see him, and Vince Russo is very excited. Or Mike is very excited.
Sanders is so excited to meet with Russo, and then when Russo gives him a tape to give to Chronic,
cassette tape.
and he tells Sanders, you have no idea who gave this to you. Sanders is so excited that Vince Russo likes him.
Yeah. Booker T versus Sting. This match goes 2 minutes. Sting has Booker T in the Scorpion. Booker's fucked, and Jarrett attacks for the DQ. This show sucks, and Booker's the worst champ I ever saw. A guitar gets used. Steiner is out there. They put the baby faces in their submission holds and leave them laying. Sanders delivers the tape to Chronic.
To Clark.
To Brian Clark.
I don't know where Adams was.
Getting high, probably.
Clark is just being a total jerk.
Well, he usually is. You watch the show?
I know.
His name is Wrath, for God's sake.
That is true.
Jimmy Hart explains to David Flair...
I guess I'd be disappointed if he wasn't wrathful.
Yes. Jimmy Hart explains to David Flair how videotapes work.
Yeah, David's trying to pull the tape out of it and look at it like it's,
Film.
35 millimeter or whatever.
So he's
And
ruined the
explained
tape, by the way.
There's a VCR.
It's true.
So David says thank you, and then he hits Jimmy with a crowbar and murders him. The Chronic... Yes, The Chronic. I just said that.
Yes.
Chronic goes into Kat's office, says...
Great album.
Listen to this tape. Kat does not listen to this tape, but they want to beat up Jarrett and Steiner. Kat says, fine. He tells Miss Jones to go tell Jarrett and Steiner they have a match with Chronic.
So clearly, Russo was recording Scott Steiner saying that they sucked. That's what the tape was. Was made
Was all of this necessary to book Jarrett and Steiner versus Chronic? You couldn't just say, tonight on Nitro, Jeff Jarrett teams with Scott Steiner to face Chronic.
I'm glad you were here, Brian.
Russo threw them under the bus.
I needed an 85-step chapter after chapter storyline to explain Chronic versus Jarrett and Steiner.
Yes.
Lance Storm comes out for a promo. They are in Canada, so he's beloved. He brags about winning 2 title matches at Fall Brawl and calls out the newest member of Team Canada, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
So Duggan comes out, and he has shaved his beard, and he has cut all of his hair off.
I had forgotten.
And apparently, he was just sitting there all day in catering, and nobody knew who he was.
I believe it. He's a very, very big man, but he was unrecognizable clean-shaven.
Yep.
I remembered him being in Team Canada. I forgot he shaved to be in Team Canada. It was a very, very strange look on him. So
he cuts his promo saying it's great to be appreciated. I carried that other flag. These fans treated me like garbage. And I thought, I heard this from Becky Lynch. And it was bullshit. But then he explains, I fought Goldberg. He brutalized me. I was sent to the ambulance with blood flowing from my body, my family crying. And all I could hear from inside the arena was Goldberg, Goldberg. And I thought, you're right. That happened. So what? Even Russo did this right. What WWE screwed up with Becky Lynch.
Well, that's true. But I would credit Hacksaw before I credit Russo.
Well, sure. Said no more Mr. Nice Guy, no more Mr. USA. I'm in it for one man, and that's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Place is going crazy for this guy.
So here's the funny part about all this. He cuts his treasonous promo, frankly. But now he's a member of Team Canada. He's in Canada, so he's a giant babyface. So in the match, he's just Hacksaw Duggan with no beard.
Right.
Nothing has changed except the color of his gear.
Until next week when they're back in the U.S.
That will change. So we get Team Canada versus the MIA in a trios match. The Wall is still around. I'd completely forgotten. He puts Elix through a table. It's not a DQ. Duggan is hitting dudes with a 2x4. It's not a DQ. He hits General Erection with a 2x4, and he pins him. All right.
Yeah.
And then they Pillmanize Rexon's leg for good measure. Scott Steiner tries to kill Vince Russo. They're barely able to pull him off. Jarrett vows to take care of Chronic and then take care of Russo. Russo mutters, I swear to God, I have no idea what he said, and Tony asked who he's talking about. That 70s bus arrives. Mike Awesome gets off. Gary Coleman is there.
Yeah.
We'll explain what happened to him at the pay-per-view later, but for here, he says, Mike Awesome, you're a bastard, after riding to the building on a bus with him. And Jarrett's going to get his too. Gary Coleman walks away. Awesome is taken aback. He goes into the building. In the background, we see Vampiro and the clowns creeping towards the bus.
Why is Rob giving me that look? Okay. What's going on
Share
here?
with the rest of the class, Rob.
The moment's passed now, but when he said Gary Coleman got off the bus, the obvious reply is, what you talking about, Vinny?
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Waited so long.
Chronic versus Jeff Jarrett and Steiner. So Chronic comes out, but then Nash comes out with the Natural Born Thrillers, says, you guys are not in Jarrett and Steiner's league. I'm here with these young lions, which is exactly what he called them. I'm going to pick 2 of them to volunteer and face you guys, and then everyone steps back except Mike Sanders and Johnny the Bull, so they're volunteers. Which, now that I think about it, that is exactly how Brian picked the best man at his wedding.
That's true.
All the groomsmen were there. With the wedding rehearsal the day before.
That's right.
Is me and Craig and producer Tony, and that may have been it. And the officiant says, who is the best man? And we all look at Tony and step backwards.
Yep.
That is exactly how it happened.
Yep.
So
That was the rehearsal dinner that we didn't realize we had to get dressed up for.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were goofs.
Yeah.
All right, so it's Mike Sanders and Johnny the Bull versus Chronic. Let me start this over. It's Chronic versus Mike Sanders and Johnny the Bull, and Reno, who runs in a minute, and Chuck Palumbo, who runs in after that, and Mark Jindrak, and Sean O'Hare. So they're doing this big giant match, and then Steiner and Jarrett hit them from behind, hit them from a pipe, and pin them.
They were still in the match.
And my notes read, what in the holy fuck was this?
I was lost at this point.
What the fuck is happening?
I was so beyond lost.
Russo goes to somebody's dressing room. Mm-hmm. Mike Awesome
He's with Pamela again.
trying to make time with Pamela.
Yep.
Oh, he sure is all right, Vinny.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Trying to get her on the bus.
Don't even spoil it. I want to do it.
Fair. That's fair. 3 count stooges off Vampiro and his buddies. They say, what happened to your bus? Mike Awesome says, what do you mean? He walks 3 steps. He turns the corner and there's the bus. And they paint and shit all over it. And it's Vampiro, ICP rules, 70s sucks, whatever. And Mike Awesome has to act.
Oh my God! What happened? Who did this to my bus? Those were his exact words.
I paid top dollar for this bus.
I'm gonna kill someone. That's what he said.
Can you imagine Mike Awesome? Mike Awesome threatened to kill someone, and it was not believable.
No.
That's the level of bad acting this was.
Not to mention, he was asking all these questions, who could have done this? And meanwhile, on the bus is written, ICP rules, Vampiro. Oh my
and
God.
Mike Mediocre.
He's a poor detective.
Is Mike Mediocre better or worse than above average Mike Sanders?
Worse.
Okay.
Just barely, though.
My mediocre and average are basically the same thing. He's above average.
Okay.
We are coming up on a point here where this company, I believe on the same show, has Mike Awesome, above average Mike Sanders, and Mike Modest.
That's true. That's right.
I like Mike Modest the best. Humble.
So Russo is in Sting's dressing room.
Yes.
He wants Sting to be his partner. Sting, of course, is going to say no and kill him, but he is a dummy. Like all babyfaces, he is stupid and a dummy. And Vince Russo is able to persuade him and outsmart him and maneuver him into accepting the bait and being his partner for the chance at winning that title shot next week.
Sting fell for it.
Because he's a dummy, Brian.
Yes.
Babyfaces are dumb. So Mike Awesome, last we saw him. Now I will save the best part for you.
Thank you.
I will just point out.
Thank you.
I will just point out that he was so angry that his bus has been destroyed and vandalized. He was furious, but he comes out here and he's smiling and he's flashing peace signs.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's smiling and happy, but once he gets in the ring, he's mad. He says, I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy guy, but I'm very upset about my bus. I am sick and tired of everyone messing with the awesome Love Mobile. I told you.
It's a fact now.
I told you that's what this was.
Now it is canon.
He was trying to get Pamela on his Love Mobile again this week.
This is Brian. This is the story. It is Mike Awesome's bus that he drives around the country and makes love.
Yeah.
It's the Love Mobile.
It's the Love Mobile. Which, by the way, begs the question, why is he not under suspicion for impregnating Stacy Keibler?
That's true. That's true.
Right?
By the way, right before this, they announced that there will be a swimsuit contest next week to crown Miss WCW.
Cool.
Yeah. As I remember, the Howard Stern whack pack is...
They teased them a lot, too.
Yeah.
Couldn't get Howard himself, mind you.
No, he's a star.
He is. So Mike Awesome challenges... He solved the mystery, at least. Or somebody... Probably 3 count, probably
Somebody
stooged
stooged him off, yeah.
He challenges Vampiro to a hardcore match, tells him to leave those sissy clowns in the back.
Mike Awesome is out here. He at least got to take off his jacket. But he's out there in his 70s pants and his dress shoes, having to do this damn match. Keep in mind, Lance Storm got them to remove the logo because he kept slipping on it in his wrestling boots. This guy's wearing dress shoes, which are slick, like just being dress shoes. He does his running giant dive over the top rope in his slacks and dress shoes. That was pretty impressive.
This match was fun.
Yeah, it was the best thing on the show.
I will say nothing bad about this match. And while we're talking about clothes, I also liked Vampiro's Mariachi from Hell outfit. That was cool too. So they had a good hardcore brawl. There's all kinds of weapon shots. There's all kinds of crowd brawling, but it's all good. And finally, Vampiro gets powerbombed out of the ring through a table. Tony screams, it's the spot of the night. And Awesome pins him out there because I guess in WCW, hardcore is also a false count anywhere. Awesome wins.
This was good. They brawl into the crowd, big dive off the riser, and by Vamp. It was a good match. Best thing on the show.
They didn't miss the dive from the riser, but as he climbs up onto the barricade, they cut to a worse camera angle.
That's true.
They could still see it. It was only the dives that totally missed, but yeah, it was dumb. So Booker now goes into Russo's locker room, and Russo is scared, and we don't see what happens. It just goes to black, but we could see in the back of this locker room, there's a couch in there, but it's not on the floor, like where you sit on them. It's on its end up against the wall. Why?
You're asking me why on a Vince Russo show for anything?
I actually am. Maybe something I missed. Maybe somebody has an angle where they upset furniture. David is watching the tape in the limousine.
That's what upset the furniture.
So there's a camera in the limo watching David watch the tape. Then there's a camera outside the limo when he jumps out. He destroys the tape with a crowbar. He screams Stacy's name, and he runs away. This leads to Jarrett and Steiner versus Vince Russo and Sting.
I wrote Steiner and Russo. No, Sting and Russo versus Steiner and Jarrett or something. Because Booker T's in the match.
Booker T takes Russo's place. So they're doing this match.
Well, he doesn't because Russo ends up getting the pin.
Well, that's a great point.
So it's just another guy in there.
So Medeja's in there hitting dudes with a pipe. Miss Jones trips her. The announcers are screaming about how they have no idea what's going on because that is the point of Nitro. Nobody ever knows what's going on. As a wrestling match for what the 5 men counting the ref before they did, it was a fine little TV main event tag match until Chronic attacks Jarrett. Not a DQ. Steiner wages absolute, complete, total warfare on Booker T's testicles.
Yes.
Not a DQ. Vince Russo limps out and grabs the referee. Not a DQ. Steiner levels Russo, who last I checked, they were still friends. But Booker T hits Steiner in his bad face with a bat. He puts Russo on top, so Russo wins. And then Booker grabs him and says, "I will see you next Monday night."
So Booker T is looking for the easy way out by giving the win to Vince Russo?
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to think, yes.
Or he just wants to beat him up in a fair athletic contest and not just kick his ass right here. Even though he apparently kicked his ass in the locker room earlier. I don't know.
I mean, it's not a one-on-one match next week. It's the triple cage of doom with like 10 guys in it. Gosh. So Booker is going to end up looking like a moron. He is the worst champion I've seen in a long time.
He's worse than Ray. He's worse than Mankind. He's way worse than The Rock in the other show. I closed by simply writing, what a brutal mockery of pro wrestling this show was.
I just wrote horrible show. But yes, it was a brutal mockery of the business of professional wrestling.
The art.
Are you ready?
As ever. The finishes on this brutal show were like a dozen pins in 5 minutes in an elimination match. 2 pins in a 2-minute intergender tag match. Pin with a kick in 10 seconds. DQ due to run-in in 2 minutes. Pin after a bunch of 2x4 shots. Pin in a 9-on-2 handicap match after pipe shot. Pin in a hardcore match after powerbomb through a table. And then pin in a tag match by a guy who may or may not have been in it after interference by 2 men was not a DQ. And nut shots were not a DQ, and a baseball bat shot was not a DQ.
Sounds like it was a no DQ match.
I guess.
They never announced anything, and there was a DQ on the show, so I can't assume it is.
Well, you're probably right.
Fuck, Nitro's awful.
It is horrible.
It's so much worse than people remember.
I don't know about that.
It's worse than I remember. I'll
6 months left.
mess that up.
We have 6 months left. We're done. We can do this.
Yeah, we can.
All right, everybody. I'm going to wrap it up for today. All sorts of great stuff up on the front page. I'll be back with Dave tomorrow. Observer Live tomorrow. And Observer Live today. Check them all out. That's it. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.